What's up, YouTube? ProTech here, back with another StarCraft 2 video for you today. I decided to make this video because there's a lot of people in my stream chat who just, I don't know, I guess they have this idea that I don't play at GM level or something like that. So I just went on a 1v1 spree here. As you can see, I played for 2 hours. And in those 2 hours, I was able to get to Grandmaster MMR. So here's the match history. Let's take a look at the profile. We can see that the Master 1 bar is filled out. And so therefore what this means is that if I continue to play, which I probably won't, but if I do, I will eventually get to Grandmaster, right? So if we take a look at Grandmaster, we can see that to simply get into Grandmaster, I've got way more than enough MMR, right? Looking at rank 186. Now, if we look at Contender, depending on whether these players play or not, they might get a slot before me, right? So Grandmaster, just to put it into perspective for you a little bit, Grandmaster is more about the time that you play versus the time that others play, if you have enough skill, right? So the main reason why I don't really ever go for it is because for me as a player, I don't need it. What I need is to look at my profile and see my Master 1 bar filled out. That's what I need. And that's all I need, because that tells me GM, there you go. But anyway, on to more of the purpose of this video. There is a build that I want to show you guys that, particularly for you Zerg players, I play random, so the build is, if you're a Zerg main, it isn't necessarily always going to work, but regardless, it's still a very good build, and there's a certain way you need to execute it. So I'm going to hop into the replay here, which was this game, and I don't know who Piglet is. It might actually be the streamer Pig. I don't know. But you can see he's Grandmaster here. His MMR at the time was 5,400, and I'm playing random, right? So as a random 1v1 player, you have a lot of different options, right? You can go for one base cheeses. You can go for just various builds that if you were not a random player, you wouldn't otherwise be able to get away with, right? And so that's what we're going to be covering in this replay. It's going to be both for random players and Zerg mains, right? Just fix my sound here. So on the loading screen, I know that the opponent is Terran. He knows I'm random, right? So I have a lot of different options here. But the main build that I like to use in TVZ is the build that I'm going to show you here. So you hatch at 17, and then you drone up to 18, but then immediately after you build your 18 drone, you're going to take a gas. Now, this is going to contradict a lot of the builds that you see when you watch pro players or you watch streamers or whatever, right? So the idea behind taking the gas right after your 18th drone is that it gives you access to the speed a lot quicker, right? And speed can be very important in this matchup, because when you don't get the speed, essentially what you're doing is you are granting map control to the Terran player. And oftentimes what you will find by making this very small adjustment is that it really throws them out of whack. and it throws them off their game. They lose their map control. They're used to playing TVZ a certain way. And so this very, very small adjustment can actually go a pretty long way. So you take the gas, and then you cut workers at 17, and you save up for a pool. It doesn't really matter where you place the pool, but I tend to, when I play TVZ, I tend to keep it in like kind of an open area, mainly because it just makes it easier if you have to deal with like a liberator. You know, a lot of pros will put their, a lot of players, I should say, will put their spawning pools here or like up here to make a nook for the queen, or over here. But in this matchup, I think it's best to put it here or somewhere that is out of the way, because you don't want your queens getting caught going through little nooks and crannies to get to the libs, right? That's just time you're wasting. So there are two different variations of this build. And because I know this player is a 5300 MMR player, I can see that he is scouting my gas. He's going to know how much gas I've taken. So he's going to know that there's something a little off here, right? So normally what I would do is I would just start spamming lings here, right? But when you play really good players, like this player who's Grandmaster, you have to start taking things into account, such as him counting your drones, him counting your gas, etc., etc. So I see the Reaper here, and I see the expansion. So the problem with this map is that there are so many different places where the Reaper can jump up. Up here, here, here. I mean, there's just a lot of different places it can get in and get scouting information, right? So to make this build I'm doing work, you need to sell the idea that you're playing a standard game, right? And the way to do this is once your pool completes, you queue up 2 queens, speed, and 2 zerglings, right? 4 zerglings, I should say. Now what this is, and then once these lings come out, you start to build drones, right? And what these drones do is it's basically telling the Terran player that you're building drones and you're trying to play a standard game, right? So the important thing here is you're trying to sell a story. You're basically just trying to lie to your opponent, right? So the queens come out, I do an inject. Now here's the important thing. The important thing is that you send these queens to the edges of your creep, and then you put an overlord. You keep your lings here to block the Reaper from coming up here. You put your queen here to block the Reaper from coming here, and then you put your queen here to block the Reaper from coming here. And of course you can reposition your zerglings when you see the Reaper, right? And so from this point forward, I have sold the story that I'm playing a standard game. And I'm not. I'm building a Baneling nest. But he doesn't know that, right? And so from this point forward, you need to have good vision out here. And I think this is probably the best place to put it on this map, because you can see the Reaper if it tries to come this way. And then this will allow you to position your lings to grab it, right? And your queens. So you'll see he doesn't want to go in, because if he goes in, basically what he's looking for is like a huge swell of zerglings, right? And so you need to hide them. You need to hide them like in an area like here or even up here, just somewhere he cannot see them, and the only thing that he's going to see are the lings that you've already created, right? This is the important part to make this work. So what he's doing here is he sees the queen here, right? And you could see he's poking back and forth with his Reaper. And what he's trying to accomplish here is he's trying to get the creep tumor, right? So again, I'm selling this story that I'm playing a standard game, but he doesn't know this, right? And if he loses this Reaper, well, then he's lost all map control up until the Hellions come out, and that's not a good situation to be in. So I wait for him to throw the nade, and then I do the creep. I mean, the inject here. He throws the nade, and then that's when I choose to do the inject versus the creep tumor. Had he not thrown that grenade, I would have made the creep tumor. Why? Because I'm trying to sell a story. Okay, so now he sees the speedlings, right? But if you'll notice, the Hellions are mid-map. So this whole time, he never gathered the information that I was going for this type of a play, right? With good lane positioning, good queen positioning, and good overlord positioning, I was able to deny him getting the real story, correct? So now he's in a situation where he doesn't know what the tech is. It could be roaches, it could be Banes, it could be Nidus Network. He doesn't know because he hasn't seen my saturation, right? And so from this point forward, you're throwing your opponent off guard, and you're throwing him out of his rhythm, out of his game. And you'll see, this is a 5,300 MMR player microing like a monkey. See this miss rally? Obviously, he didn't mean to send one Hellion back and keep the other one in the mid, right? So his game is thrown off. All because of my open. All because of how I played in the first 5 seconds of this match, right? Now, another thing you'll note is that he sees these lings, but I sent these on a different path, right? If he's good and he's paying attention, then he would see that there's no health bars. Like, you take a look up here, right? You can see that some of these lings are injured, but none of these lings are injured, right? So if he's good, he's going to know exactly what's coming, because this is a different group of Zerglings. Why? There's no damage on these lings, right? So again, he misrallies his army, and he miscontrols his army. And then from here, because I've sold this story, by now he knows, and you know he knows because he lifted his CC, right? By now he knows that I've got a Ling Bane all-in coming, or something, you know, similar to that, such as roaches, ravagers, what have you, right? There's no way he's going to be able to out-micro those lings. He's not going to be able to save any of his SCVs, and the game is over, right? So this is a really, really, really powerful, strong build if you execute it correctly. And again, the key components to making this work for you Zerg players and you random players who random into Zerg is, well, there's actually two things it's really important that you really need to do. You really need to stack your workers, because by stacking your workers, you're getting more income faster. And if you're going to do an all-in play like this, you absolutely want to maximize your economy, right? So that's definitely one thing you should do. I don't do it because I'm lazy and I don't give a fuck, but you should do it, is my point. So again, the key to making this work is to build the 4 lings, take the 3rd Overlord, send it here to where you can spot the Reaper. When the queens come out, do an inject, send them to the edges of the creep, and build drones up to like 4 at the natural, so that when his Reaper is inside of your base, scouting everything, he's getting the idea that you're going for a standard play. So you do the inject, you send it to the edges, keep that here, and make sure you watch and keep these lings up here to block the Reaper from jumping up there, because if he jumps up and he sees your saturation, he's going to know you're not building drones, right? So you position them based on where this Reaper is. so that he can't just dart in here and scout your drone line, right? So those are the key important components of making sure that you do this build correctly. And I am telling you, a lot of fucking Terran players lose to this build because they don't expect it. It isn't meta. Not a lot of people do this. So this is just kind of a build that you can put into your tool, your book of builds, and it'll take you a long way, trust me. So thank you guys very much for watching the video, and I will see you at the next one. Peace out.